Welcome to Roots and Roofs, where we explore the intersection of motherhood and entrepreneurship in the real estate world. I am your host, Mackenzie Shelton. Join us as we dive into the unique journey of balancing family life with owning a thriving real estate business. Each episode, we will uncover inspiring stories, practical tips, mindset conversations, and expert insights from others who are carving their paths in the real estate industry. Whether you are a seasoned realtor, a prospective buyer, or simply curious about the dynamics of managing both home and career, Roots and Roofs is your go-to podcast for heartfelt discussions and invaluable advice. Tune in and discover how these incredible women are building deep roots from the ground up while nurturing their families under the same roof. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Roots and Roofs. I have an awesome guest with me today. Sara Porter is a local real estate agent in the Omaha metro area, and she is also a multiple business owner, a mom, and a mom of some very active kids for sure. So, Sara, why don't you just kind of tell our guests a little bit about yourself? And then, yeah, we'll kind of get into some questions here.
Okay. Sara Porter. I have been a licensed real estate agent for almost 15 years now. I think my 15-year anniversary is in May. And have been a single parent, 50-50 custody with my ex-husband for 10 years now, which seems like a lifetime almost. 3 kids, 20. He is a sophomore at University of Virginia. He is a wrestler there. So he's 1,500 miles away. A daughter that's 19 at UNO. She's a first year there. And then a sophomore at Lewis Central, a son 15. He's also a wrestler. So
awesome.
A little bit about me. And then I also have a, back in probably end of 2020, 2021, beginning of 21, I started an LLC. It's called Highway 6 Ventures. I knew that I kind of wanted to develop my own brand, but then real estate blew up, and that brand was going to be just simplifying people's home. I have kind of a regimen that I do as a busy working mom of 3. And it evolved to being a contractor for a friend's business of home organizing. And then I thought sometime last year, like, why don't I just develop my own brand more significantly? And so I not only contract for her business, then I also have my own clients as well. And finally decided on a name, Simplified Spaces by Sara, but it took me quite a while to actually hone into what I really wanted to do with that. So
sure,
that's a little bit about me.
Awesome. Well, we'll get into the questions here.
Okay.
So first question I have for you, especially after that introduction, how do you balance the demands of running multiple businesses while being a single mom and, you know, all the things that kind of come along with all of that?
So as a single mom, I became a licensed realtor before I was divorced, and I actually had a full-time job at that time. It was really just because I enjoyed real estate is why I truly got licensed. But it quickly became like my number one passion. And I thought, if I can be a better mom and be a realtor at the same time, then I needed to do that full time. So that's kind of what led me here. And I've always been, I know people joke, you're so OCD. I wouldn't say that. I came from kind of a chaotic childhood. Of parents of divorce at the age of 5. And the one thing that I could control, what it's probably a coping mechanism, was order in my life and just getting things done. And so I work with, I have a paper calendar. It's actually right here. I know it's old school, but this is my checks and balances versus my online calendar in Google. So time blocking is significant for me. At the end of each year, I time block out basically my calendar for the year on things that I cannot miss. Motherhood for me is first and foremost. You only get them for a certain number. So I time block things for them first, and then I will piece in work.
Sure.
And I do, I'm never too busy for real estate because that is how I function as a mom and my livelihood, right? But I have started to time block some more pieces for my true passion, which is helping others, especially busy moms, get organized in their life. So yeah, time blocking is probably my number one resource that I do.
I love that. I actually did a podcast in the past where I wasn't interviewing anybody. I was just kind of giving advice on some of the things that have worked for me as a mom of 4 kids and, all obviously running businesses and all the things that kind of go into that. And that's what I said as well, if you're not kind of prioritizing your time, that's when your brain feels very chaotic
Yes.
and things kind of, either you forget things fall by the wayside, or you can't even hardly decide what are the priorities in your life. Because your brain is chaos along with the chaos that's actually going on. So,
Correct.
yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. I love that. So can you maybe share some top tips that you have for staying motivated and avoiding burnout? Because I think what I hear the most from working moms is that we feel pulled in a million different directions. And I think it's very easy, again, if you're not maybe organized and prioritizing your time, to feel that burnout. But what are just some ways that you personally are kind of staying on top of that so you don't get super overwhelmed?
Some of it I can relate back to when I was working a standard job, 9 to 5, when my kids were really young. Um, I would prioritize family meals um, after my work schedule, and then just those standard routines, right? If you have little kids, like let's make a set time for dinner, let's make a set time or day for bath times. Um, Set out outfits the night before when they're little, right? Do those
Yes.
tasks that you're not going to want to do. We're all in a hurry in the morning generally. I've never been a morning person. I'm a night owl. And
Sure.
so those little things helped me function better. The older I've gotten and the older my children have gotten, after my divorce, I knew that I had to really, I'll go back to time blocking, write everything down because I didn't want to forget things. So yeah, my kids, I would, get up in the morning, their breakfast would be pre-made. I'm big on meal prepping. I'm a former bodybuilder. And so meal
I
prepping,
did not know this about
you
you.
didn't? Yeah,
No.
so in 2016 was my divorce, and I was like, I need to get physically healthy. Like I've always been little, right? And everyone's like, oh, you're in shape. No, that is not the truth. Like just because someone's small does not mean that they're healthy or in good shape.
Sure,
So I
absolutely.
started working out, and to motivate other moms or to hold myself accountable, I would post some stuff on social media. And then by the end of 16, I was like, oh, this is super cool. I'm going to join CrossFit. So I went into CrossFit, posting some of those workouts, and a couple of people approached me like, hey, maybe you could do this bodybuilding thing. And I was like, oh, it's actually easier than CrossFit, for me anyway. And so I did a couple competitions, which at that time I was too young for the master's division. So I was
Okay.
competing against like 20-year-old women that hadn't had babies or anything. And I did place at a couple competitions, but it wasn't ever about like the aesthetics. For me, it was about just like proving to myself I can set a goal and achieve it. But it taught me so much about being disciplined, to avoid the burnout, like getting physically in shape and strong made me so much more mentally and emotionally strong. Like the things that it taught me, a lifetime of gratitude for that sport. But meal prepping was the biggest thing that came from that. Learning that food is not meant really for enjoyment as much as I like my ice cream and cake. It is meant to fuel my body, and I've carried that with me now for, oh my gosh, 7 years or so. That meal prepping is number one. So on Sundays, I spend 2 hours in the kitchen and I do meal prep almost every meal. There was a couple months where I would take off here and there, but it's just super important. And having elite athlete children, it's really just made the weeks easier. I don't want to have to come home from a busy day and figure out dinner. I want to have it prepped or at least know what we're eating. Same for breakfast. My sophomore son is cutting weight this week, and he messaged this morning, hey, I need something for lunch because he was at his dad's. And so I had stuff in the fridge, just grabbed it because I had a meeting prior to this and easy to run it to school for him. So
Sure.
those are some things that I kind of got off topic what you had asked about because of
No,
different
no,
things.
this is great.
Yeah,
I
so
absolutely
it's
love
just
this.
really taught me that 75-day hard challenge came out a couple years ago, and I know you've been awesome at working towards that.
Yeah.
And that's really what bodybuilding did for me. It's like I read books. I'm a wimp in the winter, so I can't work out outside. So I've never done that specific regimen, but like it's very similar. And it's carried over in my business with all of the things. So I used to be too busy or forget to eat. I try to at least grab some healthy snacks and keep those with me. So yeah,
Yeah.
burnout though, that's what I believe that we're circling back to.
Yes.
Um, everybody goes through burnout, right? Like it's just a thing. So I don't want to get on here and say that that's not realistic because we've all been through it. Things happen in life. But it's about how, and I tell my kids this all the time, it sounds cheesy and cliche, but it is really every time you trip or you fall, it's how you get back up and rise again and start over. And it's okay. I know a lot of times when I'm in people's homes trying to help them get organized or do some home management things that they feel a little defeated. And I'm like,
Mhm.
it's the majority of people don't live in my world of being organized. I'm no mommy dearest, but I have systems in place that help me maintain my busy schedule. And I feel that that's probably the first hurdle that people have to get over is getting these systems in place, whether it is learning how to, like some of it's basic, get back to the basics of organizing a calendar, organizing your home, and to speak to some of those systems that I have in place. I have a lot of America in general shops at Sam's. They think like it's easier if we're going to go out and buy a bulk of things so we're prepared. I found that when I did that, other than aside from toilet paper and water, like a few essentials, if I was buying bulk in food, I either A, forgot about what I had, right? Or B, I'm spending a heck of a lot more money than needed.
Yes,
So
I
I
agree.
went to organizing my pantry. I'm lucky enough to have a walk-in pantry, but I have certain bins. I prefer clear because I'm a visual learner and doer of everything. Um,
I got clear at your
you did,
recommendation. So,
yeah,
yep.
like it's very helpful. Like I love the aesthetics of, the baskets, the wicker, all of that. But clear not only helps me, but also my kids because we can tell kids and sorry, men, like we can tell you where something is and you still won't find it, right?
Yeah.
So it just, yep, I know where everything is. Walk in the pantry, it's clear. I do have a lot of them labeled. So when my kids were a little bit younger, they could associate words with what was in there. That has saved me an uber amount of money, um, time and energy, right? Like
Yes.
not searching for things. So clear containers, number one. Secondly, like I do a purge of my closet. I used to do my kids, now I have them do it. If you don't wear it the season before, like unless it's like a nice black dress or some standard items in your closet, we're donating it. Um, that to me has I don't like things like I feel bogged down by having a ton of stuff in my house, and I'm not a minimalist. I'm probably that in between, and I that's what I see with a lot of the people that I go and help, and even with real estate and in organizing. You go into homes ready to list or to organize, and people are like, I don't know what to do with all my stuff.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
Just kind of I've been thinking a lot about this. You've been in my home. We're not, we don't have like an excess of stuff, but I
No,
wouldn't say we're minimalist either,
yeah,
right? But I think over the years, especially in our profession, I have become very acutely aware of how much stuff do I have and
yes,
how much stuff do I actually need. Because unfortunately, sometimes we go in people's homes who have lived there for a very long time and they've kind of just, they're not hoarders, but they've just accumulated
accumulated. Yep,
20, 30 years worth of stuff and they've just really never decided like, do I really still need to keep this or not?
correct.
Um, And so I've been doing a lot of that because I grew up moving every couple years, and
Mhm.
so my mom would naturally do this when we moved, but now I am in a very like, the last home that we lived in for almost 8 years. And this home that we live in now, we plan to live in for a very
Yeah,
long time. And so it's like you have to be very conscious of like, what am I bringing into my home, and also what do I really still need? Can I get rid of some of this stuff? Yeah,
correct.
absolutely.
Yep. And then that's a great point, is that some of these, more so with the people that I help organize, they either run 5Ks, so they get a t-shirt for every 5K, or they go to concerts and they buy a t-shirt for every concert as memorabilia. And there was like, what do we do with this stuff? And I'm like, I have in the extreme cases, I'm like 1 in, 5 out, right? Like you count how many. If you have 50 t-shirts, that why in the world does anyone need 50 t-shirts?
Yeah.
It's just right. Like there's ways to get rid of things. But for myself, like if I want to go buy a new sweater, that's 1 in, 1 out. Like, let's analyze. This one has some like, it's worn. Like, let's get rid of it. That's the way that I live, and I'm trying to teach my kids because we live in an overconsumption world, right?
Yes.
And I try to help sellers in the real estate realm. Like, okay, if we're prepping your house ready to get ready to sell, we need to either get a storage unit, storage container of the things that you truly want to keep, but we need to be forward thinking about what you're purchasing or have already purchased. Like what items are going to move into that space so you can comfortably live. You have to talk about their end goals, right? And try to fit into what they need to make it work
Yeah.
for them. Because some of the organization items that I do or ways that I do it aren't going to work for the other person. I want them to still be happy and functioning in their space that they're comfortable with, just trying to ease their burden a little bit. And
Yeah.
sometimes it's about accountability. Like a lot of my organizing clients, it's like, I just need somebody in here to maybe point me in the right direction. Like for you, I just gave you an overall encompassing bid on what it would look like. Here are some helpful hints in what I would do, rather
Yes.
than coming and doing the job myself. And a couple clients that I worked with in the past few weeks, like I got them started in one room and now they're like, now I know what to do in my other spaces. And they get more
Yes.
comfortable, like donating or having the conversations with their husband or child, like, hey, we don't need 20 camping chairs. We only need one for each family member, right? So
Yeah.
it's just more about accountability, more than anything.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And yes, you're absolutely right. That's exactly what you did for me. And it was kind of, I think I said exactly that same thing that you just mentioned to you, that it was like, hey, I just kind of don't know where to start. I'm
Yep.
a little overwhelmed with the space, and I just need, kind of some direction.
Yeah.
And it's funny, actually, I didn't even organize my kitchen. My mother came in town and did it while I was gone. But I was at least able to kind of direct her and say, here's kind of what I would like to do based on you coming over and
Yeah.
kind of helping with all of that. So yeah, I think that I love that you're kind of venturing into this space because I think as real estate agents, we do see a need for that there really is kind of a little bit of a gap in at least our area where there's not a lot of people that help with services like that, I feel like.
Yeah, and there really is a gap. I know that if you go on to a social media platform, let's just use Facebook as an example, and you type in home organizers, there is a wide variety of people that do that. What I see in the business, though, is that they're modeled more towards the high end, which I have organized, a 1 bedroom studio, assisted living to a $4 million home. Like across the gamut, I've organized it, but I see that the ones that are advertised more really are on that higher end
Hmm.
platform. And they do have, most of the time those people don't have, they have more of an endless budget. But I'm trying to model my business as I want to help the busy mom because I've been there and I'm kind of aging out of that season in my life, right? To
Yeah.
where I want to be able to help these moms that have, they're working or they're stay at home. They just don't, they're juggling a lot. And we see
Hmm.
burnout in those moms that, that have newborn babies. And if I can help those moms be like, hey, this load does get easier or it adjusts, to get them through those stages, like that's where my passion lies.
Yeah, I love that. I really do. I absolutely do think that you are filling a need that that we maybe like I said, have a gap for. So I love
Thank
that.
you.
I know we kind of like went a couple different ways
Yeah.
there, but this is like such a good conversation. I really love this. All right, so maybe we'll kind of shift gears
Yeah.
here and talk a little bit about parenting kids that are in very
Okay.
competitive sports.
Yes.
Because I know I have some listeners that have kids in similar, kind of maybe not the same sport, but kind of similar level of competition.
Yes.
So, how do you manage the schedule and the logistics of having kids in multiple competitive sports? And maybe what has that looked like in the past for you compared
Mhm.
to now? Because I'm sure it's kind of shifted a little bit.
Yes, so I'll start more so at the beginning. All three of my children were or are elite athletes. They all started at the age of probably about 4 years old. Um, Not that we push them to become lifelong and hone in on one sport, but that's kind of just what happened organically.
Sure.
So my oldest, like I said, is a Division I wrestler. Started at 3 wrestling. He did dabble in other sports, but it's just really his love. My daughter was a gymnast. Again, she played everything from soccer to flag football, but really like gymnastics is her love. And then our youngest is in high school and is a wrestler. He loved football, but he's just a little guy. He's our smallest, so it just
Sure.
our kids are all small, so it fits their the sport. It's just organic for what they need to do. But the juggling act, it really was divide and conquer between my ex-husband and I. He kind of gravitated towards the wrestler. He was a college wrestler. I gravitated towards like being heavily involved in gymnastics. I was on the boards per se for each sport, Powerhouse Wrestling and Premier Gymnastics at the time. Tried to just stay in the know, not because I needed to know, but just to let the kids know that I was all in and
Hmm.
supporting them. Um, through the years, we had my oldest son had transfer schools because he felt that the coaching was the best where he had went, which proved to be the case for him. Um, I will say that if I did it all over again, and I need parents to hear this, and you can share this as many times as needed, that I don't know if I would do it all the same. Like it's taught my kids a lot of lessons. They're all mentally like freaking rock stars.
Hmm.
Physically, I mean, my daughter can out pull up my son, like physical and mental strength they have. But there have been some broken seasons because they've wrapped
Hmm.
their entire lives around these sports. Um,
Sure.
I don't know if I would do it all over again. I applaud
Okay.
every college or professional athlete because we all watch right from our couches or from the bleachers, and we're cheering or we're yelling or we're criticizing. And I wish I could shout from the rooftops. And these elite Division I or professional athletes, they have to be the best of the best, cream of the crop. Have a
Yeah.
coach push them continually. But as a mom, I just like they're freaking humans too, right? Like
Yeah.
we want them to exceed, but there's so much more in life. Like I always tell my boys, like I had a previous coach mention, their careers are going to end in a hallway, whether it is in middle school, in high school, in college, or beyond in the Olympics, right? Their career will end one day. And what
Yeah.
matters most is what they learned, the friendships that they curated, and how they're going to conduct themselves as a leader into their professional life. Like that is the number one goal of an athlete. It is not for all of the accolades. Um, and then I look at my daughter, she's overcome several injuries. She could have been a college gymnast, but we chose her mental health and physical health over that, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I just want parents to know, like when they're pushing their kids into 20, 30 hours a week practice at the age of 7, 8, 9, that is not the time to do that. It is the time for your kids to find the love and the passion for whether it's a sport or an activity so they can learn to be good team members in a workplace, good leaders at whatever they choose to do in life,
Yeah.
and just be good, productive humans,
Yeah.
rather than their entire being recognized as an athlete. So I wanted to get that out first and foremost. But
You know,
how go ahead.
I am really glad that you said that. So I grew up in a family that was very sport focused,
Mhm.
and um, I was actually a soccer player,
Me
and
too.
and was very passionate about it. Definitely, I ended up playing multiple sports really through like the end of middle school. I was doing two sports a season pretty much. And then my brothers, actually, two of my brothers, were in select baseball, which, I mean,
That's a lot.
I know it's even more so now than like when my brothers were younger, but it is an intense, very
Yes.
time-consuming sport, you know, and it's something that if you really want to be good at it, you have to do select
Yep.
and you have to do it all year round, right?
Correct.
Thankfully, I had, you know, my brothers were very passionate about it, so they loved, you know, doing it. But from looking from the outside in as a child at the time and as a sister to these brothers, you know, one of the things that I reflected on as an adult with my own children was um that that passion can sometimes maybe be misled, maybe because they're
Yeah.
kids,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
And naturally kids want to please their parents, and you know, kind of some of those things, please coaches, please parents, please,
Yep.
you know, anybody who's kind of helping them in that regard. And so we have taken a little bit of a different approach with our kids. I
Hmm.
My 7-year-old is highly passionate about wrestling, I mean, he's been obsessed with it
Yeah.
since he could talk and walk, right? But we are more concerned about like the mental health aspect and stuff like that
Yep.
to make sure that we're balancing, you know, the passion compared to maybe where he is
At
in that
his age
mental
level.
space.
And absolutely, I
Yes.
mean, I
Yeah.
remember Gable on his 2 years ago on his 19th birthday, because it is an all wrestling is an all year round sport. So is gymnastics. Like
Yep.
um diet really isn't a thing in gymnastics like it used to be in the 80s, 70s, and 80s. It's more about strength. But wrestling is both. It's weight management all year round and strength. So I remember Gable on his 19th birthday, he looked at me and was like, "This is the first birthday cake that I have been able to have since I was like 7 or 8." And that, like, I was literally dumbfounded, because it just is, we get in the routines of like, oh, you're
Mhm.
cutting weight, you don't get birthday cake, you don't get Halloween candy, you don't get Christmas cookies. And that is a fact in the sport.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's avoidable, other times it is not. But that hit me hard. I'm like, what did I do to my children? Are they going to have to recover from their own passions that I only just supported?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really, I would love for parents, especially of younger kids, just to be mindful of that, to like, let's balance, let's make it more enjoyable. Because honestly, like with all of the changes in Division I sports, NCAA, the goal should never be to get their college paid for. Like, and that's, I mean,
Agreed.
like
Yeah.
that was, I'll be honest, like my ex-husband and I were like, oh, if they can get a college scholarship, that's amazing. That should never be the end goal, because it is very rare. It's a blessing. But you have to teach your kids that there are other avenues to go down, and it shouldn't just be their sole purpose of doing the sport to get that scholarship.
That was the rhetoric that we heard in our house a lot, was like you could get a college scholarship for this, right? And
Yes.
so again, like we've just kind of tried to change that
Correct.
path a
Yes.
little bit.
Yep.
Yeah. And you want to know what? That's a great point. I because of the environment that Scout is in, my 7-year-old, and because of having brothers who wrestled in high school where they really do have to cut weight in order
Mhm.
to be able to compete in the next duel or meet or you know whatever they have going on. He has I have now noticed that he has started saying little things like that. And so we've had to be like, "Bud, you do not need to worry about that yet. Like
Correct.
yes, we want to still be mindful of what we are eating or things like that, but we do not need to be concerned about whether we're 2 pounds over what we were, a few weeks ago. Yeah.
Absolutely, I will shout from the rooftops because we made that mistake. Oh, he's gonna be able to win this belt. Like, what are you gonna do with
Yeah.
the belt when you're 20 years old, right? That you won when you were 6, if you went this weight. Yeah, there's just things I would do differently.
Yeah.
Make their
Yeah.
childhoods enjoyable that they don't have to recover from. Now, I mean, now my oldest is in an amazing space. So grateful for the University of Virginia and what it's afforded him, not only but it's about the men that he's surrounded with and
Yeah.
the team setting. So not to take anything away from all of their hard work, but I would do things differently, I think.
I'm glad that you're able to be vulnerable and
Mhm.
admit that. I think that is amazing, and I hope that that resonates with some of our listeners.
I
So
hope so because I see people going on these, when I follow Hawkeyes a lot as well. And because a lot of those boys that are on the team now, young men, sorry, were teammates with my son.
yeah,
And I see people ridiculing them. And I'm like, what the hell is wrong with America and these people? Excuse my mouth. I'm like, why? These athletes are giving their all, working their butts off while going to school full time. Managing so many things and they're all
yeah,
human, like, right? Like, it's so fun to watch and support college sports and pro sports, but like, I don't know, America, I feel like needs a reality check on what truly matters.
yes,
Yeah,
yes, especially with sports, right? Like
especially with sports. Mhm.
we need to remember that the person behind the uniform is still one, a person, and two, like sometimes a young person, right? Like
Yes. Yeah,
like
right.
they don't need to hear that. Yeah, absolutely.
So maybe to
Um,
get back on topic, do you want me to talk about like what I would
yes,
do? Okay.
yes,
So for sports, again, it was a schedule. Initially as a single parent or 50-50 custody, it was about like we had to have a community or army around us. Like my parents would have to, because my kids all had practice at the same time. Like I was not afraid to ask for help. That are my in-laws, my parents, other teammates. We would carpool was huge. Packing snacks the day before, like all of those little things. I don't want to be grabbing out the door or shuffling through things to find it. That is why like having a designated singlet, whatever your sport may be, right? Like
yeah,
have a drop zone. If you don't have a drop zone in your home or garage, create one. Huge. Keep extras in your car, especially when they're little, right? Like going from work to daycare to the sport. Have an extra water bottle, have an extra, I'm huge on extra set of shoes, especially if you're a divorcee. It is not your child's fault. Yes, we need to teach them responsibility, but they did not choose 2 homes. If they need 2 pairs of shoes, buy them 2 pairs of shoes. I'm a huge, our kids, like they should function as if they have 1 home if they have 2.
yeah,
And that might ruffle some feathers or people might get upset saying, no, your kid needs to be responsible. Yes, I know that, but they did not make that choice. So
yeah,
I think that was huge that we finally came to that conclusion, like, hey, our kids might need 2 wrestling bags just in case, right? Um, so those were things that kept us, and then meal prepping. Um, and yeah, just creating a village and trusting others with getting my kids to and from and
yeah.
communication, right? Like it
I
was
love
big on
that.
communication.
I love that. Yeah, I mean, Jack and I are married, right? And
Yep.
we still sometimes need to
Yeah.
ask one of his brothers or his mom or grandma or, whoever to help get kids to and from places and help with pickup, drop off, or just the other week actually we asked one of Scout's classmates' moms, to help get to and from a place. I
Yeah.
mean, it's just, especially when you are self-employed and working a job that for me, sometimes I'm getting an appointment very last minute, and
Unpredictable. Yeah.
yes, exactly. And so it just doesn't always work out
for us to be the ones that are taking them to and from stuff. But that also doesn't mean that they shouldn't get to enjoy doing things like sports and stuff like that. So
Exactly.
yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. I love that. Okay, so I'm gonna just ask one more question here because
Yeah.
we are kind of wrapping up. But how how do you create a productive home office? Because we've kind of talked about organizing and stuff like
Mhm.
that. How do you create a productive home office while also maintaining kind of a family-friendly environment? This for me has been a struggle, so I'm really asking this question for
Yeah.
myself, because we don't have like my office is kind of in my bedroom, and so if you have any tips or suggestions on how I can kind of enhance that, I would love to hear it.
So do you have, just to talk about yours specifically, do you have a secondary space to put a home office? Is that an option?
No, so
Okay.
as of right now, because of the way we did some improvements on our house,
Mhm.
we have 5 bedrooms and they are all occupied by
Okay.
either myself or our children. So,
Okay. Um, that's a tough one because I was just going to say, like, when I first moved into my home, it is 4 bedrooms. We do utilize the basement also because one of the kids wanted like a bigger space. So initially, when we moved in, my office was also in my bedroom.
sure.
This was pre-COVID.
Okay.
Um, and I felt like I couldn't put work down, which in our business as realtors, like that's usually pretty standard. I think that most of us realtors are like always going 24/7, always on our phone if it chirps, even at 6 a.m. or 11 p.m. I have a tendency of responding, right?
Yeah.
So that overwhelmed me to have my desk and my workspace in my room.
Okay.
I had the luxury of when my kids like adjusted rooms and one moved into the basement, I'm like, oh, I'm going to utilize now my spare bedroom as my office. But let me caveat to that is that I've since found that I am more productive when and this might not be for all people, but I keep a lot of my work stuff still in there at my desk. Um, I don't keep a lot though, like I used to, because everything's done on the cloud, on the internet, right? Like I don't need a lot of hard files with me anymore. Um, I have an organized backpack with all of my needs. So I don't know, like, or, like it is legit, like it goes everywhere with me.
Yeah.
And it has my laptop, any files that I need or printables. Um, I went away from business cards. I know, like I have a QR code, like I text everything. But I do have my calendar, like I try in a book, if I'm reading a book or 2 books,
Mhm.
like it's in my backpack. And
So
I
this
found that
actually
I
So this
myself am
actually
more,
makes me feel better about myself because that's kind of what my life has ended up being, that I have a backpack that has everything and then I
right?
just kind of work where it works
Right,
best for me.
right. And that's like, no, I love the office space. I did love the office space at home. But now, like COVID, it was a huge pivot in life for a lot of people, right? Like, how can I be the most productive throughout the day so then I can, like, I've kind of gotten away from it, enjoy my family at night.
Mhm.
I will always, my phone is my lifeline. You ping me, I'm going to respond. But in regards to a workspace, I'm going to accommodate wherever. If I'm at a wrestling event, my backpack's with me with my laptop. Luckily, COVID, that was a plus, right? Everything went
Sure.
online, just like we're
Sure.
Zooming now. Is it great to come here at Berkshire in the office? Absolutely. I don't have a printer anymore. It was too costly for me, so I come in here and print everything. I've really just acclimated myself to my environments that wherever I am, I have my home office in my hand. And
Yeah.
I have my little library at home with my books, but other than that, I've really decreased any clutter or heaviness of having a home office or that pressure or an office. Like I don't have a dedicated office anymore at the office. I used to. Um, I just found like I wasn't utilizing it and it seemed inefficient to me to have like I'll have a little designated cubicle, but not like really don't. I've really tried to minimize the need of things and just functioning from my laptop. And that works for me as
Sure.
a realtor.
No, I love that. And I feel like that would probably work for a lot of different people in, because everything is going online, right?
Yes.
So even if you are not in the real estate space and you have another type of business venture, I feel like people are very compelled to now start businesses or continue businesses that can maybe operate from anywhere, quote unquote.
Yes.
So I love that. Thank you for maybe validating that I don't need a true
Yeah. I think in our business, I mean, I organize even offices for people that, the vast majority of people, not vast majority, but 50% of people still work from home, right? Like since 2020. And they get overwhelmed. And I'm like, but do you need a lot of these files, right? Like sometimes people are still in the old school habit of printing and keeping. And I think if you get in the habit of releasing what is not necessarily needed for an audit or something to that effect, scanning in regularly, decluttering a home office, getting up, and I see a lot of people, they don't leave that desk space. Get up and get some fresh air. Get out of even in an office setting like this, get up and leave for an hour or 30 minutes. So then you're just refreshed and you can come back to it. So I think there's, that's a key component too.
Yeah, I love that. Okay. Well, thank you. You made me
welcome.
feel better about myself.
Yeah, no, good.
Okay. Well, I am so thankful that you came on and shared some of this.
Thanks for having me.
And I really appreciate you being honest and vulnerable. And I probably need to talk to you a little bit more about some of your bodybuilding stuff because ever since I did 75 hard, I've been, just really on this track of working out every day and all that good stuff. So
moving your body every day is huge for people like us that are juggling a lot, right? Like that's, So ping me anytime and I'm happy to either provide resources that helped me or help you individually. So
Awesome. Thank you so much, Sarah, for
You're
coming
welcome.
on.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for listening to Roots and Roofs podcast today. If you loved today's episode, please let me know. I love hearing from you on Instagram and Facebook, so feel free to send me a DM or tag me in your stories so I can share it too. If you're looking for more information about today's topic, please visit my website, mahoganyacres.com, and all of the information that is listed in the show notes below. Until next time.